Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Success Series. I'm your host, David Berg. Really excited to be here with Dave Meizlik, a good friend, an investor and commander, and a successful entrepreneur. Dave, it's an honor to have you here. And before we dive in, maybe just a little context on who you are, what you've done, and we'll go from there.
Sure, yeah. No, it's great to be here. Appreciate the opportunity. It's always good to just chat. I have been in the tech industry for a long time now, over 20 years. I've done a bunch of different startups. I started out in technology working for an enterprise security company called WebSense. Later on, that was sold after I left. And then I went to a company called Dome9 Security, which was also later on sold. And then to a company called Social IQ Networks, which we rebranded, and to Nextgate, and then sold. And then went into totally different outside of the enterprise security space into e-commerce, where I grew a company to over 100 million in sales online, selling over 26,000 SKUs. And now today I get the pleasure of chatting with you and helping out other startups, and I love it, so yeah.
Love the story. When you look back at your younger self, say 18, 19, 20, did you know you'd be an entrepreneur? Did you know that there would be this path of being a company's then being sold? And
No.
Okay.
No, not at all. I started out for a long time, all the way through college, in fact, post-college, thinking I was going to be an attorney. When I was a little kid, I remember being asked by my father, what do you want to be when you grow up? And there was a circle of his friends at the table. And, the first thing that popped into my mind, just to make my dad feel proud, was, I want to be a lawyer. And I saw his eyes light up. And from then on, as a young boy wanting to earn his father's praise,
right,
that stuck with me all the way through college. I minored in poli-sci, and I actually did go to law school, and I got there and I said, what the am I doing here? I don't want to do this.
Right.
And so I left, and I went back and got my grad degree at SC and went into what was my passion, which was technology.
And in that first opportunity, most young people that I talk to, they're figuring out where they fall within a company's organization. They have a desire for sales. They don't know if they'll be good at it. How did you find your niche within a startup company?
I would say that I kind of fell into it a little bit. I used to, back in college, tease some of my friends who were studying marketing at the time.
Sure.
Because I didn't really think marketing was really that salient of an endeavor. And then I ended up being the head of marketing for different startups.
Right. Just sort of spontaneously.
And it just kind of happened. I think naturally, I think there's a false expectation, especially of youth, that you should know what you want to do. You should know what you're good at. And the practical reality of that is that's not possible in most situations. You don't have enough life experience to actually make that determination for anybody else to bet on you yet to make that determination.
Right.
And so I think the best thing you can do is just be yourself and try and do different things until you find the things that you really enjoy and that you're good at and that other people want to reward and lift you up into.
What about the pressure of, I'm in my 20s, I want to start a family soon, I have to figure things out, which I think is prevalent among most young people.
Don't project.
Exactly. How do we avoid that? And we were laughing about this earlier today, and I said, let's sell this company quickly, right? How do you don't avoid it?
Don't avoid it, because that is often fuel, right? That passion, that drive is something that does fade a little bit over time as you get older.
Sure.
Because you start to focus on different things in your life that provide value, and some may argue even more than some of your younger goals.
Yeah.
Well, family,
sure,
time, because as I often say, time is the one thing you can't get back.
Right.
But that is fuel. But at the same time, you have to use it in a positive way. If you're using that energy in a negative way to get yourself down, to beat yourself up, if other people are using it against you, that is absolutely the wrong way to diffuse that energy.
Sure.
You want it to drive you, and you want it to drive positive outcomes. So you really have to look at how do you harness that in a positive way.
Right. And then if you look just at other areas of life we spoke about, when you were younger, aside from the attorney that your father wanted you to be, what was your upbringing like? Were your parents supportive of entrepreneurship? Was it sort of conflicting with how they lived and how they believed about and viewed things?
No, I think it was a little bit mixed.
Okay.
My mom was a social worker.
Okay.
And my dad held a number of different careers. But I would have to say maybe. And the reason I say maybe is because up until I was 6, they had a real estate company that they had started themselves.
Really?
And grown to be somewhat successful. So
Sure.
I think in some ways, maybe at a very, very young age, there was an imprint on me.
Right.
That, okay, being entrepreneurial and what that looks like, but not in the latter years.
Right.
In the latter years, I just kind of fell into it because I got into the technology space and I was around all these absolutely amazing people whom I've worked with over my career that I'm still friends with and close to this day.
Right.
And, I think you come across people in your life that inspire you, and those relationships, when they do, take hold, and you just kind of hang on to them, and you look to emulate some of the success that you see your peers having.
Sure. And then you and I talk about this all the time, especially as an entrepreneur. I always joke that I think most successful companies happen through hard work and happenstance, right? You make enough of the right decisions with enough determination and not giving up when things don't look good, and eventually you figure your way. Others will make the case, no, some are born and bred to be entrepreneurs and that's just their gift and it is what it is, and others will say, no, it's completely divine or by design. What's your perspective on that?
It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
Everybody has seen somebody or met somebody or is somebody that has that spark, right? That magnetism that when you see them, you're like, okay, that person has it going on. What is that? It's hard to put a label on
Sure.
that exactly. But I have 2 kids and I've told them throughout their life that success is a formula, okay? It's intelligence, it's hard work, and it's a little bit of luck. And you got to have the 3 to really do something. There's a lot of smart people who worked really hard
Right.
who haven't gotten lucky.
Right.
And there's a lot of not smart people who've worked very little and just gotten hugely lucky. It's
Right.
those together, though, that I think, kind of like the ingredients of soup make it the best it can possibly be
Right.
to achieve success.
Right. Do you think that environment and upbringing have a large component to do with it?
I do.
You do? In
I
what
do.
ways?
Well, I was talking with someone just the other day about this. Nobody really teaches anyone how to be a good parent other than your parents. But your parents only learned from their parents.
Right.
So it's not as if we go to school to be good parents. So in many ways, the upbringing, I think, influences the kind of leader that you're going to be. And so the more predisposed you are to being a good leader through seeing that in your parents' eyes, which are the
Right.
first 2 leaders in your life, the better that I think you will be in any organization. And part of that, requires, thoughtfulness, humility, and a lot of different factors that go into it. Yeah.
You mentioned humility, and it's that I'll harp on that because that's something that I've thought about and sort of had and lost at moments. I've seen leaders be successful with a ton of ego that sort of operate in this dictator mindset where I'm smarter, I'm better, I hire you, and I'm the leader.
Yeah.
And then I've seen others be successful where they have complete humility, almost to the point where they actually view themselves less than everybody else on the team that's working with them.
Yeah.
Better or worse, I don't know. In my style, my natural inclination is to be more humble. At times, I don't feel that that's the most positive and leader form to take. And so I will become, I don't want to say authoritative, but I'll take things that are sort of counter to my personality.
Yeah.
Because I think it's what's best for the company. What's your view on that?
It's a balance.
Okay.
And at different times you have to employ different strategies with different people in different situations because not every tool, is the right one for that job.
Right.
And so I think you have to be versatile. There's time for, you to have your ego and project it.
Sure.
And there's time for you to be really humble and not. It just depends on the situation. I will say though, a lot of leaders, especially younger ones, fall into this trap of thinking that they need to lead differently from who they are. So they think that they have to project a certain personality onto every situation or most situations, and it actually undermines the integrity of their leadership. And it's that old like childhood game of
Sure.
I'm going to take a step forward and then 2 steps back,
Right.
because of how you just handled that situation.
Right.
And that can be challenged. So you, in some ways, you have to get out of your own way. And one of my companies, I used to say, that when we hired people on, one of the things about working here is that everybody is themselves. Now that's a blessing and a curse, because a lot of jobs that you get when you go, you put on your wardrobe, and it's your work clothes, and that is kind of your armor, and you go into that environment projecting who you are.
Right.
But you can't be the projection 100% of the time, and so the true you sneaks out, and then it becomes inauthentic with your peers,
Right.
and with your team members.
And they feel it right away, right? They recognize
They
it.
feel it, and they're like,
Yeah.
what was
Right.
that? Like
That's
wow.
not him or her. That's not the person that I know, right?
So I think that having integrity and authenticity is key.
Right.
It's also a little bit of a key, I think, to happiness in one's work, and builds stronger bridges with your peers.
The team members on let's use a startup as an example. I spoke to a founder who said, I don't care about my team. They're all displaceable, right? This is his opinion. And whether they're here or not, the company will be successful. They're a necessary evil. I don't agree with that at all. I think that creates I think it's the root of everything, and so your customers will feel that, the product will be reflective of that. But then the other extreme, I've heard founders say that my entire company is dependent on my employees.
Yeah.
Are either extreme true? And if not, what does the middle look like?
Like everything in life, it's balance. Employees in any organization, startup or large, are the biggest asset and the biggest liability.
Right.
Right? It is how it is. The question for leadership is, how do you get them weighted more on the asset side than the liability side? Everybody's got talents. Everybody's got commitments to the company and to themselves that they want to have as an outcome of the work product.
Right.
And so it's tapping into that and cultivating that. I think if you go into looking at your employees, not to, say anything bad about whomever that was.
Yeah.
If you go into it with the perspective that your employees are, on the dark side of the force, so to speak, like you are projecting into a mirror what you're going to receive back.
Right.
And I would be really cautious about that, because you can create a very toxic environment very quickly. It doesn't take much. The practicalities of leadership is that you're under the scrutiny of your team every day.
Right.
And, there's that old adage about the king or queen, as the case may be, doesn't need to speak loudly. Speak softly. Everybody's listening.
I love that.
So,
I've had this conversation with a lot of people recently, especially those that are out of college and looking to work at a company, of having this conflict between, I'd like to be this person, I'd like to have this role, I'd like to start this company. I don't believe that I'm capable of doing it. And I remember in my journey, when I started, there was always that belief in the back of my head of maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe I don't have the skill sets to do so.
yeah.
But like most people that are successful, you just say, you know what, well, I don't care. I don't care about those thoughts. I'm going to do it anyways. What would be your advice to somebody who's having a really hard time overcoming that mental block, that mental hurdle, saying, I'm not good enough, I'm not qualified for this role, I'm not qualified to do this? If you were talking to them right now, what would you tell them?
Don't do it.
Huh. Why?
I would say don't do it until you are in the right mindset that as much as you hear that voice, you're able to overcome it inside yourself.
Sure.
Because the road on a startup, as you well know, is not short.
Right.
With persistence and time, you can accomplish anything. But the practicality is, it takes a lot of both in 99.999% of the situations,
Right.
to get to where you want to be. It doesn't happen overnight. So if you don't have the fortitude within yourself to be able to get from A to B, and you're doubting yourself out the gate, and not just doubting, you should always be doubting yourself a little bit.
Right.
But if you're not able to practically look at it and say, no, I think I can do this. I know that there's these obstacles. I know that. But each one I think of, I think I have an idea how to overcome that. And I am super excited about this thing that I'm going to do.
Right.
Then don't do it.
Right. I've heard a quote once that said, when excitement goes out the window, the passion for what you're building is the only thing that's going to take you forward. And so things will look horribly a lot in startups. And if you don't love the work or you don't love what you're building, there's nothing to be excited about most of the time. It's the level of excitement. I always laugh at this, like when you first build your website and you come up with a name and you buy the LLC, you're like in this euphoric land. I'm a startup founder of who? You have no employees, you have no team, you have no money. And then very shortly after that sort of dwindles down, and then you're faced with the harsh reality of actually building a company.
Yeah.
And a lot of days, I mean, I deal with all the problems, so it cannot be fun. But the internal excitement around not what we're doing right now, but where this company will be is what keeps me going. And I think if you're not excited about that from the onset, right, then you shouldn't even do it to begin with.
Yeah, Field of Dreams is not a strategy.
Right.
And at the same time, you have to have enough passion to go build the field of your dreams.
Right.
Right. I mean, how many times did you run into obstacles and have to figure out not how to go through them, but how to go around them, and then wake up the next day still and be super excited about what you're doing.
Right.
And not only that, to have to get
everybody else
excited about it. It is a funny situation to find yourself in. If you're not fully ready for that,
you'll get squashed.
You're going to get squashed.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Right.
Not going to be able to execute it.
Right. The first rejection that you get, I mean, the first VC to say no, you're like, oh, well, I can't fundraise. Well,
how many VCs did you talk to?
Hundreds.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, it's over and over and over.
Right. And the same pitch and no.
The hard no, the soft no,
and still
the ghosting.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And still having conviction, even though everybody that's smarter and older than you and that's seen many other deals believes that it's not.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. It's seriously, pitching your company is like being on a dating app.
And getting rejected, and still, it's like getting
swipe.
smacked.
Yeah, it is.
It's like going on 100 dates, being told you're ugly every single time, and still going on the 101st date with confidence.
Yeah.
I love that.
You got to be ready.
Right.
So you have to have that passion and that drive to fuel you along. But the other important thing, I really think, great mentors, great support, and I think you need both. You need people who lift you up. Right? Because you look to them and say, wow, they did that. How did you do that? Tell me, share me your secrets.
Right.
And then when the times get tough, to go to them and say, I don't know what to do. Or I'm down and I'm struggling. How can I work through this issue? But you also need people who lift you up, that push you up from the bottom, which is about building a great team. Because you can't do everything on your own. And it's about growing at the right rate, at the right time. Be very cognizant of that, the amount of debt you take on and all this other stuff.
Sure.
You really have to look at it and think like dominoes, 10 steps ahead. But that team that supports you and supports your vision, they have to be rowing with you, not against you. And that is something that as a leader, as a young entrepreneur, can be very difficult because I remember in my youth and probably your age looking this way doesn't look like I still look youthful, but I still get put down at how youthful I look, even though I am older now.
Yep.
How difficult that was for me to overcome. I was at a $1 billion market cap back in the day, the youngest director in the company's history.
History of the company. Wow. Yeah.
And so here I am leading this big team.
Right. All older than you probably, right? For the most. Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah.
And it was a challenge at times for me because
what were some of the feelings, like what came up? Imposter syndrome?
It wasn't so much imposter syndrome as it was in some ways an overinflation of ego to offset the things that I didn't know.
Right.
And a genuine lack of experience. It's not that I wasn't smart enough to figure things out, it's just the lack of contextual awareness for the best way to approach or do things is really important. Donald Rumsfeld had this saying back in the day, there's the known knowns, there's the known unknowns, meaning there's the things you know, and there's the things you know you don't yet know.
Right.
But there's the unknown unknowns, which is everybody's blind spot. And especially when you're young, you have this big blind spot because you just don't have the experience.
Right.
And that's where mentors come into place. That's where bringing in experienced team members comes into place, because they bring a wealth of knowledge to be able to help drive you forward. And it is key, because what you don't want to do is make the easy but costly mistakes in your venture. Those are the things, again, 1 step forward, 2 steps, or 10 steps back, that end up costing you a lot.
Right. I love that. You mentioned the team multiple times. When it comes to the team, aside from, of course, just monetary success that everybody's driven by, aside from appreciation and having the role that you want, at an early stage company, what are some of the things that a leader can do to incentivize, keep employees excited when there isn't a monetary incentive, when there isn't fun hours, when things aren't necessarily exciting?
It starts with hiring the right people. And not everybody's going to be a great fit. You can have the person with the best technical aptitude, but the worst attitude.
Right.
They're not going to fit in. They're not going to be able to glom on and share that vision. They're going to soil it from the inside. And so you can't have those people. And I always hire it on 2 axes, attitude and aptitude.
Okay.
Right?
How do you quantify each one?
Well, the aptitude is the ability to do the job. Can the person do the job? That is a foundational component to being hired at any company, right?
Sure.
But the aptitude is, or the attitude, sorry, is how do you fit in with the founder or founders? How do you fit in with the rest of the team? And that is, just getting to know the person a little bit. What are some of the things that they like? What are some of the things they don't like?
Right.
What do they like about their old roles? How do they solve problems? What were some of those problems that they encountered in that, in that experience,
Sure.
or in their education? It's good to get to know somebody and then understand how they're going to gel, and make sure that they're able to align to the vision that you want to execute. If they align to that and they gel, then they're going to be a great asset, provided they can do the job,
right.
which should be the prerequisite.
Right. Makes total sense. Bridging in a slightly different direction, aside from business, spirituality, how, if at all, has that played a role in just your view of life? And I know spirituality, especially in today's day and age, can be a lofty, like, I meditate, or this. What does that look like for you in your life? And how do you view the word?
That's evolved for me tremendously. I would say, even though, like, when I was younger, I got bar mitzvahed,
Yep.
And I went to Hebrew school and all the things, I was not spiritual. And then I went to, have an e-commerce company, as you know,
Right.
that was an e-commerce company selling and teaching people about spirituality, right? That was really successful, and so all of a sudden it was like, I think I need to embody it just a little bit more,
Right?
And this was later in life, and so, post kids, I started to evolve myself. We're always learning and evolving. I think spirituality brings meaning to life, and spirituality bridges. You said bridging before.
Sure.
Bridges connections between people. And I think that is tremendously important to an organization. The number one reason people stay at a company isn't the paycheck, isn't the mission, it's the people. And so when I think about spirituality in any company, I think about it through the lens of, the culture word, right? I think culture is a little worn down, because it is too HR oriented. But I think spiritually, if you have people creating connections between one another, and then an alignment to the brand and the mission of the company, you're building something that, again, their heart is going to be in, because it's aligned with their soul.
Right. That's powerful.
That, to me, is, from a leader's perspective, where you're acing things.
Right. And what would that look like in a sort of tactical, simple level, in real time? Like, I want my employees' culture to be spiritual. How would you even go about creating that environment? Of course, it starts with self, but what would that look like if there are practical steps to take?
First step starts with authenticity.
Okay.
Right? Your communications, your time with team members needs to be authentic. Second of all, it's creating the space to understand who they are, and to get to know them and allow them to get to know you a little bit and each other a little bit, and to really embody the work. Everybody's going to function differently. Some people are just very task oriented and understanding that that's how they operate and how they receive feedback. And the other part of it is creating time for them to bond outside of work. And it isn't just, the
team happy hour.
The team happy hour, which everybody's somewhat reticent to go to.
Nobody really wants to be there. You're like, when is this thing done, right? And that's,
I think it's about creating experiences for team members. A happy hour doesn't create an experience.
You like the offsites? Are you a big fan of that?
In some ways, if the offsite creates a positive experience. What I mean by that isn't just a group of people awkwardly sitting around doing something weird. I remember we used to have a lot of offsites.
Just like good ones, enjoyable ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do not remember. Well, except on occasion when I was presenting, the presentations.
Right.
Okay.
That was like the part where everybody would check out.
That is the part where everybody checks out.
Right.
I remember the music and the ice luge in Las Vegas.
Right.
Where we've got a line, and I'm standing, a young kid in a big org, standing next to a VP that just onboarded.
Sure.
And he and I are still friends to this day because we're standing in line talking about
who knows what, right?
The ice luge and X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Those experiences that you can create, bring people together.
Right.
And
Beautiful. On the family part of it, you have kids, you were married. What's your take on early stages of your career, also starting a family? Recommend it, not recommend it? What's your take on it?
Do you?
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, do you? When you're younger, you have less to lose, so you can take more risks with fewer consequences.
Right.
As you add a partner, as you add children, those consequences become much greater.
Right.
So I do think if you have it in you and you have an idea, or somebody whom you know has a good idea and you want to do something, venture related in your youth before that is a much more pragmatic time too. That said, you can do it in later years too. You can do it on the side. I remember my ex-wife now and I, when we started the e-commerce company, there was discussions that I've heard many other times entrepreneurs have, which is, I'm going to quit my day job. I've got this brilliant idea and I'm gonna go do it. And every time I hear that, that to me is like the biggest red flag, because no.
Right.
If you can't start putting that together in your spare time and get it to a place where you're either venture backed or you are bringing enough revenue to, within 90 days, offset your day job and living expenses.
Right.
And I say 90 days because if you can see the other shore before you jump ship, then you're fine. If you can't see the other,
you might drown on the way up.
You're going to drown. Absolutely. So I'm a big proponent of that. The other thing I think is, when people say, I'm going to quit my day job, I'm going to go do this, I think to myself, that person does not have a pragmatic sense of risk. And as an investor, that is probably not somebody I want to invest in.
Exactly.
And they're going to have trouble raising money, and they're going to have trouble acquiring customers and keeping customers and all these things.
And then they'll also quit for the next shiny thing, which is what they just did.
1,000%.
Exactly. 2 months later, a buddy's like, I'm building this. Oh, well, forget about this startup.
They also don't realize the hard work it's going to entail, because if you can't keep your day job and
do this,
at night,
then how are you going to run a company?
How are you going to run a startup, which takes all of that and
all of your time and plus, exactly. You have time for nothing else.
Especially if you have a partner, and kids, forget about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We look at life, and unfortunately for most of us, it takes these like sort of traumatic or intense experiences in life, whether it's family related or friends or just intense things happening, to sort of reframe how we spend our time. What do you think is the best way to spend this lifetime, which, as you said, is so finite, and time is something you can never get back? How would you advise somebody in their 20s to best spend their time, and so they don't have regrets down the line?
What I used to tell my kids every day over breakfast, which is, what does a good day start with? A good attitude. Every day you wake up, you should try and have yourself be in a good mindset, because that throughout your day is the one thing you can control. Everything else could go to shit. Okay, and in the world of startups and ventures, it probably will.
Right.
Okay. So that is the one thing that you can control. I would say, you're always going to face challenges. Education. People have often asked me, do you think it used to be, do you need to graduate high school? Well, yeah. Do you need to graduate college? Well, yeah. Do you need to go to grad school? Okay. Well, here's the thing. All those endeavors, they teach you in micro ways how to overcome difficult situations. Oh, I've got a term report. I've got a 15-page essay. I've got an AP test. I've got, these sets of finals. They're challenging you. They're teaching you to overcome obstacles. And in life, we're always going to face obstacles, and they evolve, and they range from not getting the funding to, having to let employees go, which is one of the hardest damn things. I think it's horrible, to losing a loved one, to a divorce. Right. You're going to face these challenges. The question is, can you wake up the next day and through it all and have a positive attitude? Because that's the one thing every day you can affect. And if you can do that, I think, life is going to be that much better.
Love that. The last thing I want to ask you is if you could look back at your, let's say, 25-year-old self and tell them one thing, what would that be?
It's okay. It's okay not to know what you're going to do. It's okay to have doubt. It's okay to try different things and take risks. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to say the wrong and do the wrong thing. It's okay. You'll be fine.
I love that. Dave, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's always
pleasure to have you. Thanks so much.
Thank
Guys, Dave Meizlik, episode 66. Thanks so much.